for you to go see a counselor, it means you're crazy. No, not at all. You cannot be functioning normally if you do not address your mental health. I think what we do, we do a lot of observation and active listening, and through that we're now able to infer what you're thinking. You are controlled by your emotions, believe it or not. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Albert Migoa. I'm a trained counseling psychologist and an emotional intelligence facilitator. I'm also into mentorship, and I am an ICT enthusiast with a specific focus on bias on internet governance. Now, why the psychology and counseling area? For me, I wanted to understand how people behave, and how we can improve our well-being, our mental health and well-being. Because I'm a very firm believer that you cannot be functioning normally if you do not address your mental health. So that is really what got me into that. That's the first reason. The second reason was also for myself. I had to ensure that for me to be an effective and productive person, that my mental health is well catered for. Okay, one of the challenges I faced as a psychologist is the mixing of the disciplines here, the mixing of the disciplines within the mental health fraternity, and specifically the works of a psychiatrist and the workings of a psychologist, and specifically a counseling psychologist. The reason why I'm saying this is because when you delve into areas around mental health, for example, issues around depression, you find depression is a medical condition. And as a medical condition, because it's a medical condition, it should be handled by a psychiatrist. And a psychiatrist is, number one, a trained doctor. So you must be trained in the medical field first before you go further and specialize, okay? Now, the work of a counselor is to bring you back to normalcy. So for instance, if you're going through depression, you're in the medical facility, you've been given medication, and now you're improving, the counselor will come in now to bring you back to a state of normalcy. So that is the biggest challenge I faced. And perhaps I may also add and say the fact that a counselor can read your mind, that's not possible. I think what we do, we do a lot of observation and active listening, and through that we're now able to infer what you're thinking. Yes, the fact that a psychologist can read your mind, that's not possible. I say it is through active observation and active listening, all right? Whereby, what do you observe? You observe how you observe verbal and nonverbal cues. For example, how you're talking, what you're saying, how you present yourself physically, things like eye contact, And it's through that now we're able to infer, perhaps say, okay, fine, it's very possible that you are thinking like this, or you're this kind of a person. I think an addition would be the fact that for you to go see a counselor, it means you're crazy. No, not at all. We're living in a very dynamic world right now. And I think with the onset of COVID has disrupted so many things. So it has affected our lives in all spheres. So when you go to a counselor, it means that there's something that's affecting your day-to-day life, okay? Remember, if there's something that is bothering you, and it appears not to be solving itself, then that could be an indication that perhaps you need to go see a counselor. So for example, like what anxiety. If you're constantly anxious about something and you can't quite understand why you're anxious, all right, and the anxiety is persistent, then perhaps in that case, you may want to go see a counselor. So that would be one of the misconceptions. And that is now how you can go about it. So some of the key projects I've been working on in the areas of mental health. Currently, I'm an active responder with the Kenya Red Cross, so I'm one of the lead counselors. Currently, I'm one of the counselors in a project they're running in the Mukuru area. The program is called the Urban Resilience Program, and specifically the Young Men Resilience. So this project seeks to upskill young men in the Mukuru area with life skills, such as decision making, etc., because these young men go through a myriad of issues, and they have a component under health where I fall in. So I come in to offer what I call group counseling, individual counseling, and I also give mental health talks. Aside from that, I've also been actively engaged with the Nairobi Metropolitan Service by offering psychosocial first aid for various target groups. So for instance, about 2 months ago, I was offering psychological first aid to healthcare workers because, as we all know, these are frontline workers in COVID and they're going through various issues, all right? Away from that, I also do respond and generally do also telecounseling from time to time when the need arises. But another thing which I'm actively involved in is what I call emotional intelligence. And I'm very passionate about emotional intelligence because this is something that I didn't realize I've been engaging with it like for the past 10 years of my professional life, but actively since last year. That's when I really delved into it in great detail. So I went in there, and my experience began when I was working in the informal settlement, because it occurred to me that, you know, being a vulnerable person and being also neglected, there are certain things that you're prone not to be exposed to. So it really, having working and been working at the informal settlement, specifically in the Mukuru area, it really gave me that, it was a catalyst for me to really go into it, because I thought to now really focus on the person, because as the saying goes, you are controlled by your emotions, believe it or not. And I'm sure you're going to find out that you'll find that out very, very soon. So my journey in EI began when I was having a session in one of the informal settlements. And then I began approaching various institutions that I had engaged with, and others I just searched online. So since 2019 to date, I've held sessions with various institutions. So for instance, I've held EI, emotional intelligence sessions with the Red Cross, with the Emerging Leaders Foundation. I've also had a session at Community Maximum Prison, with Rotaract Langata, with the National Youth Council, with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, etc. So for me, it's really all about, one, getting people to know what emotional intelligence is, for one, and how emotional intelligence can help you become a better person, and also how you can use emotional intelligence to be successful and also relate well with people. So, emotional intelligence, if I may just say in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is a term. Is a term that was coined, made popular by an American psychologist called Daniel Goleman, and the term was actually invented or brought to light by two gentlemen one called Peter Salovey and John Mayer, when they're talking about a certain politician in the US who was caught in some scandal affair. And they wondered, both Peter and John, why is it that someone so smart can make a stupid mistake like that? And this came at a time when they were working on a research touching on emotion and cognition. So an article was written in one of the dailies, and that's how Daniel Goleman got a wind of it. And he read it, he saw it, and that's then what even motivated Daniel Goleman to even write his very world-famous book called Why Does Emotional Intelligence Matter More Than in IQ? That's intelligence quotient. So he talks of 4 key components that constitute emotional intelligence. One, that is self-awareness. So self-awareness concerns itself with being able to identify, understand, and evaluate your emotions, okay? And it looks further into 3 key areas. One, emotional self-assessment, which means, do you understand your own emotions as a person? Secondly, accurate self-assessment. Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? Thirdly, we look at something called self-confidence. Do you know your self-worth? All right? So some things that one can do to be more self-aware is journaling. And I say women are very good at this. You write down how you're feeling, express yourself, that's one way. Secondly, identify feelings associated with various roles that you play. So for instance, if you're a father, how does it feel being a father? If you're a mother, how does it feel being a mother? If you're a sister, how does it feel being a sister? So you identify the roles you're feeling, your various roles, and the feelings associated with that particular role. The second tier is what I call self-management. So self-management concerns itself with how to regulate your emotions to be more effective and productive. And here you look at certain things once again, like impulsive emotions. How do you control your impulses? Initiative. How do you go? What do you go out of your way to do certain things beyond the normal? Okay. Do you take up opportunities that come your way? How adaptable are you to various situations? How flexible are you? And trustworthiness. How honest are you to your various value principles? And under this, as an example, what you could do to be able to really regulate yourself, your emotions better is one, identify those issues that cause us, that trigger you emotionally for one. So for example, I can say, I get angry when people make noise, all right? So I've identified. Then the second tier is identify a strategy to deal with that. So as a strategy to deal with managing your emotions is one, identify what triggers you, okay? And then secondly, what can you do to deal with it? So as mentioned, so for example, I get angry when people make noise. That's my trigger. Now, second, what strategy will I employ to avoid that anger? When people make noise, I will walk out of the room. Okay? So that is the strategy I'll employ. So also find out what works best for you. The third thing is social awareness. And social awareness concerns itself with being able to understand and respond to the needs of other people. So here what do we look at? We look at things such as empathy, being able to feel and sense other people's needs. We look at things such as organizational dynamics, being aware of the politics, attitudes, and perceptions of people. And then you look at something called service orientation, being able to sense the needs of other people. And a good example of being socially aware, I say one, a student who goes the extra mile, a waiter who offers something better on the menu. I say if you're in the workplace and you're going to get your cup of coffee and you share a desk with your colleague, as you go get your cup of coffee, your glass of water, you want to ask your colleague if they would also want a cup of coffee or a glass of water. So that could be an example. Then finally is what I call relationship management or social skills, which concerns itself how do you network and relate with people out here. And here, for me, the traits are very important because they're important because one, we need them to be able to relate with people, but secondly, they are traits that leaders possess. And what do they include? They include things such as influence. How do you persuade other people? Change catalyst. Are you a person who brings about change? Development catalyst. How do you give feedback, train people, and bring and nurture people? And here even mentorship can come in. Another thing you want to look at are things such as teamwork and collaboration. How well do you work with people in teams? All right. Conflict management. How do you settle disputes? All right. How do you maintain and build networks? Okay. So all these are some of the key components around relationship management or social skills. So now, what can you do, for example, to improve on your social skills? One, identify a competency that you're good at. Okay. So for example, I'd say I'm good in communication. Okay. Now, the second thing is identify an aspect of that particular competency that can be improved. So I would say, yes, I'm good in communication, but maybe I need to improve in my written communication. All right. So I've identified an aspect that I can work on. And then thirdly is what actions are you taking? So for me to improve on that aspect of of communication, I may end up doing something like research, research or consult experts, but do something that will enable me improve and become a better writer. So psychosocial issues are issues that affect us both psychologically and socially, okay? So these are problems that we experience as people and our environment. So there are two tiers. It's the person and the environment. So like what? Anxiety, stress, things like depression, okay? Then societal, things like what? Let's say environmental pollution, okay? Things such as riots, okay? Things such as alcohol and substance abuse, okay? Things like gender-based violence, things like early child pregnancies. All those now constitute psychosocial issues. So these are issues affecting both the individual and the society at large. So what are mental disorders? So mental disorders are, these are diagnosed illnesses, okay, by a professional, by a trained mental health practitioner who has been able to note certain symptoms and behaviors exhibited by a person. And mental disorders are actually done by individuals who have had training in mental in the medical field. However, you may also be aware of mental disorders even as a counselor or even as a psychologist. But what you cannot do, because you do not have the medical training, you cannot diagnose, which means I cannot give you medication. I may know what the issue is, but because I don't have that training, I cannot give medication. So the advice I can give any person who wants to come and who wants to be a counselor or even be an EI practitioner is know it is what you want. You must be, I say the passion comes first. Be passionate about it, okay? Be focused, but also purpose to want to improve people's lives and create impact. But also, I'll also encourage future psychologists and AI practitioners to really have time to really evaluate themselves, because they always say you cannot give what you don't have. Understand yourself. Understand where you are in your various life stages, because remember, you'll only give what you have.